Hi there. I'm Katie, and this is my coming out story. um, I'm just gonna start from the beginning. I grew up Christian, very, very Christian, and I grew up homeschooled. I grew up with my influences being incredibly controlled. I was only around other Christians. I was only around primarily other homeschooled families. So everyone that was in my circle thought the same as me and lived their life the same as my family did. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about what it looks like to grow up homeschooled and Christian because it feels like just a lot and it's kind of its own video in and of itself. But it's super important for the context of my story. So I do want to make sure it's known. The biggest thing I tell people when I'm talking about how I was raised is essentially there were a lot of things I did not know and understand because they weren't taught, but I also didn't learn it from my environment. So as it relates specifically to gay people, I never saw gay people. I never knew anyone that was gay, at least knowingly. The only exposure that I had to gay people would be in like a movie or a TV show. And at that point, my parents always made an effort to pause the movie, pause the TV show, and let me know how disgusting it was that there was a gay character, how wrong it was, how the gay agenda was being achieved by having a gay character on the show because the gay people want to make us think it's normal, and just all kinds of horrible, hateful things. But I didn't have anything else in my life that challenged those points of view, and it was being told to me by the people that I trusted most. So that is what I internalized. That's what I believed to be true. So essentially, I just believed that being gay was very wrong, that God hated it, and that was about it. Growing up, I never had a lot of interest in boys or dating. I definitely had crushes, but it was like the minute that something would go from being really good friends with a boy to being more than friends, I would just like freak out, like sweaty, weird, and I would just like shut down. So I think that definitely kept me from dating pretty much my entire high school experience. When I got out of high school, right before graduating and then graduating, I had no idea who I was, what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't feel like college was really for me, but I wasn't sure. So I decided officially to take a gap year and then see how I felt. And I ended up becoming a missionary, which, if anyone is watching who doesn't know what a missionary is, it is essentially where you travel to other countries, usually with a group of people, and you share your faith, your Christian faith, and you are essentially trying to convert communities of people to your faith. I was really in it. I went to Africa, I went to Brazil, I went to Nicaragua, I went to India. I loved so many aspects of it, and so much of it did feel true to me. I think the meeting new people, meeting people who were so different from me, all of that felt really true to me, and it felt like my little world, my little bubble was being opened up. As I was opening up and learning more about the world and being away from the communities that I had spent so much time in, I started kind of questioning my belief systems, who I was, what I really wanted out of life. And it wasn't too long until I left the church entirely. I would basically go to a country for a couple weeks, months, whatever, and then come back and work for several months to save up money, and then I would go to a different country. That was kind of how I did things. So in the midst of that, I was working at a coffee shop, and I was part of this local church. We met out of a high school. I sang, so I was singing on the worship team and just working and kind of trying to figure myself out. It was the first time that I had lived away from my family. So I felt like I was so new to the world and just had no idea how to do anything. I became really close friends with this guy who I'm gonna call Greg. We'll call him Greg. So this guy, Greg, he and I became really good friends. He was new to the church. I was still relatively new, and we just got along really great. We ended up going on a couple of dates. We actually went to Panera Bread on a date, which is like so cringy. A couple days later, he ended up coming into the coffee shop. He knew I'd be working and he wanted to like say hey and spend some time. And I freaked out. I talked to him for a second, but I could just feel his vibe, how excited he was to see me and how he was definitely gonna ask me out again. And I like completely shut down on him. And he felt my vibe immediately. He knew something's up. He was very hurt, obviously, but I think he was mostly confused because we had had such a great date. Everything in my body shut down and said no. And I just told him, let's chat later. I'll let you know what's up, but like, I just need space. So I told my coworker I needed to take a minute. So I went into the bathroom and just imagine like brown paper bag, like, like so many thoughts. My head was swimming. I had so many thoughts. Just like, part of me is like, this guy is everything that you've told people you're waiting for in a potential partner. He is successful and kind and incredibly handsome. Like, could have been a model. Totally could have been a model. The whole package, right? And I think most of all, I just could see myself being best friends with this person. I loved his personality. I really enjoyed being around him. And I knew that my parents would be very excited for me to be with a person like this. So all of these thoughts are in my head, but yet everything in my body and everything in my mind is shutting off, saying no. So as I'm thinking all these thoughts, are you capable of love? Is something wrong with you? So many thoughts. And then one of the thoughts was essentially, if you can't like a guy like that, do you even like guys? I remember being in the bathroom and just being like, oh. And I like took that thought and just like shimmied it all the way down to my toes. I was like, nope, I am not thinking that ever again. I have been told my entire life that being gay is the absolute, like, one of the worst things that a person can be. And there's no way that I could be that way. So what a crazy thought I had. Let's let it go and move along with life. So fast forward, I have been living on my own for a while at this point. I was living in the city. I was meeting so many incredible people and experiencing life so different than what I was used to. I pretty much decided at that point that I wasn't interested in being a part of the church anymore. I'd kind of let that part of my life just go. And again, that's a whole other story, but it wasn't easy, but it was definitely what was most true and best for me. I was working in coffee in the city and got hit on by women a lot. I always thought it was funny. I was like, do I have like a gay vibe? Like, why am I always getting hit on? Like, I would get hit on by women more than I would get hit on by men. Like, I was like, I have a gay vibe. Like, what is this? I'm not gay, but everyone thinks I am. I think because I was stepping away from this belief system that I had had for so long that was so limiting and was so rule-oriented. You can do this, you can't do that. This is how you're supposed to be. This is how you can't be. Because I had moved away from that, I think I was just wanting to be very open to life experiences. But I also really needed to prove things to myself during this time. So I kind of forced myself to do things that I maybe didn't really want to do or feel like was necessarily right, but that I felt like I was supposed to be doing. So in that time, I did end up sleeping with some guys that I knew. When I first had sex with a guy, I cannot even begin to describe. It was truly a panic attack the entire time. It felt so uncomfortable and unsafe and unnatural for me, and I truly was freaked out. And I think part of me believed that I felt that way because it was wrong, or because it was the wrong circumstances or the wrong person. No part of my brain really thought, oh, maybe your experience with this guy was so bad because you don't like guys. I don't think my brain ever really jumped to that conclusion. But because I'm stubborn, I slept with another guy and then another one, thinking, you know, it'll be different. And then one time I was like really drunk and I was like, maybe I liked that. I don't know. So I kind of just like resigned myself to maybe like not being sexually active at that point in my life. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like shelf this again, you know? I'm just like not gonna be interested in this right now at this point in my life. And I started working a new job. I feel like a lot of my life circumstances kind of changed. I was meeting incredible people. I had been on my own for a while. I really was like my own person at this point. And I just felt free. I felt liberated. I felt like I could try and experience whatever I wanted to, and was allowed to be whoever I wanted to be, which was so exciting. I confessed to a friend of mine that I could see myself kissing or making out with or having sex with a woman. I don't even think that my reason for saying that was because I genuinely was considering the fact that I might be gay. I think I was just so open to life. I was just embracing everything in life with open arms. I was happy. I was just excited about everything. I think that is what opened me up to that possibility. And then I ended up sleeping with a girl for the first time. We were at a friend's party, very drunk, and it ended up happening. And it's like sparks, fireworks, all of the things that you imagine you're supposed to feel when you have your first kiss in like middle school. But I never felt that way. I never felt that way when I kissed a guy or was like intimate with a guy. And I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was incapable of love and affection. All of these things, it was like all of those voices in my head that had been telling me those things for years just like went silent. And I was like, oh, you're literally gay. That is why you have had such a struggle. Because I'm a stubborn ass bitch, I did tell myself, okay, this was a beautiful experience. This busted your whole life wide open. It was like a secret about me had been revealed, and now everything made sense. Like the puzzle was complete. Okay, cool. But I was drunk. So I told myself, you need to go on a date with a girl sober. Got my dating apps and I switched them over to female only and started hanging out with people and going on dates. And it was almost like I was more excited and more awake and more comfortable even being sober. I didn't feel any sort of like reliance on being drunk to enjoy going out with women. So I disproved my theory pretty much immediately. And I just hit the ground running. It was like a light switch turned on, and I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing this whole time. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm gay. And I've always been gay, and now I get to explore what this means for me. There's a lot of feeling like you have to almost like change parts of yourself, dress different, act different to be part of this community when you don't. I was just so excited to go to gay bars and meet people and explore this community that I didn't even know existed, that embraced me with such open arms. With my drink. I'm gay too. I'm excited. I felt like there was a community that I didn't know existed, that spoke a language that I didn't yet speak, but I was just like, I felt home there. So the coming out portion. I think it's important to note that a lot of my personal friends that I had when I realized that I'm gay and started dating women, a lot of the friends I had, I told immediately. I mean, I'm talking like hours after I'd slept with a girl for the first time. I was texting my friends like, this thing just happened. And they were all very excited about it and very by my side for the journey. I'm so grateful that I confided in them and trusted them with that information. But I'm also so thankful that I had those people who were safe spaces when I was just figuring it out and kind of swimming in it and wasn't really sure. They were so kind and so loving, and I just am so grateful to have had them and still have them. But I had not come out to my family yet. I knew that my siblings were probably going to respond positively, but I knew my parents would not at all be okay with it. To come out to my siblings, because at that point I had been dating women without telling them for a year, if not longer. I was actually in a relationship with a woman at the time. We had been together for a little bit, and I was in my brother's truck, because this is Georgia and you hang out in people's trucks. He had confided in me something very serious that had happened and basically said, please don't tell mom and dad. I'm not ready for them to know, and I just wanted you to know. And I said, cool, brother. I have literally the exact same thing to tell you. I am not ready for mom and dad to know yet, but I want you to know. So I told him. He basically just laughed at me. He said that he has known that I was gay since I was like 5, and he's just happy that I know now. So I was kind of like, you suck. Why didn't you tell me? This would have saved me a lot of grief if I knew earlier. Very loving, very warm, very accepting, really eager to meet the girl I was dating, just stoked. And then that Thanksgiving, I drove to where we were having the family dinner with my oldest sibling, Robin, and we were like discussing all of the things that we knew we couldn't talk about in front of our very conservative family. We were getting all of it out of the way before. So in that conversation, talking about 100 million things, I confessed that I am gay and that I'm dating a woman. And they came out to me as non-binary. So it was this beautiful, explosively queer car ride that I will never forget. So both of my siblings are extremely loving and welcoming of that. They both have met Jess and love her, and she loves them. So that felt just like so freeing to know that at least a couple of my family members aren't gonna turn their back on me. I'm gonna talk now about what happened when I came out to my parents. And I'm gonna try to say it in like a shortish way. There is a lot to it. My brother Jeremy called me and told me that my mom was freaking out and really concerned about me, and that it was probably time for me to have a conversation with her. So I decided, I know that my parents are not going to approve, they're not going to be okay with it, and they're going to reject this part of me, and I'm never going to be ready to be received that way. So I just decided I'm just going to do it. Sat my mom down and just said, I have to have an important conversation with you. And I set really important terms for the conversation. So I made sure to say, I don't want to be interrupted. I want to be able to say everything that I need to say. I want you to feel comfortable and free to ask me any questions that you want to ask me, but I need you to understand that I will not answer a question if I'm not comfortable answering it, and I need you to respect that and not push it any further. And I just had us agree that this conversation was going to be completely and totally honest. That was our agreement for the conversation. And I was just so honest. I just threw everything out on the table. I really laid it out and was just very, 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 very vulnerable. But she was very upset and cried. And she did ask me questions, but they were a lot of questions that were more if she had done something wrong as a mother, like if I had been assaulted on one of my mission trips and that had made me gay. Some pretty difficult questions that were really devastating and very hard to be asked. I tried to be really gentle and to answer every one of them and not lash out. But I kept our conversation pretty brief, and then I just left and went home and gave it space. She told my dad, and then my dad sent me a very long text message saying how surprised he was and just caught off guard, and he felt like he had failed me as a father. I don't remember what I responded. I think I just said something along the lines of, like, I love you, nothing is your fault, I'm happy, let's talk about this in person. It was something along those lines. So after I came out, I definitely gave my parents space. I wanted them to process it and feel like they can be around me and not freak out. But every time I saw them in person, they would not acknowledge it. They had just swept it under the rug and pretended like it wasn't there. So that was incredibly hurtful. Months and months and months went by, like 6 or so months, and I ended up cutting my hair very short. I really wanted to go back to virgin hair, and because it was so unhealthy from bleaching it, I think I wanted to kind of like start over and experience having short hair. Like, I just wanted short hair. I don't have to explain myself. Why am I explaining myself? I wanted short hair, damn it. It was the first time my parents had seen my short hair, and I came to their house, and my mom just like looked at my hair and she was like, oh, your hair's short. Makes sense because all lesbians have short hair, yeah? And I was just like, bleh, like knife to the heart, so hurt. I had come out months before, and it had gone completely unacknowledged except for that one comment about me having short hair because I'm a lesbian. I was like so hurt. About 8 months after I came out to them, they ended up finding out about my relationship with Jess. It was super new at that point. And they had done some things that were really, really, really hurtful that they never acknowledged or apologized for. So I felt very much like there was this line being drawn in the sand. I really wanted to set our relationship up for success so that we could potentially get past this and have like a healthy relationship, that they would be receptive to Jess and eventually see her as the incredible person that she is. But they just weren't interested in talking to me about it at all. It was like they wanted to just pretend like this part of me didn't exist. And if they weren't pretending, then they were lashing out. So when I had made the choice to move to Los Angeles and move in with Jess, it was done very quickly. I saw a few people before I moved, and I just moved. It was me and a suitcase and my cat, and we just moved. It was what was best for me. It was what I wanted. I wanted to be with Jess. I would have moved anywhere in the United States or the world if I meant I could be with Jess. And we're happy. We've been together for over a year. It was a year in August, so a year and a few months. But I wasn't really talking to my parents at all. I wanted space. I did not want to give them more reason to lash out at me or to continue this weird pretending like something isn't going on. But I knew that I had to be the person to bring things up every single time, and I just didn't want to be the person to do that anymore. I wanted somebody else to bring up the difficult things to talk about and be the bigger person and discuss it, and it just wasn't happening. So there were a few instances where I did end up talking to my parents and they lashed out again. I got really upset and I said things that I shouldn't have said, but I am not currently talking to them. I don't plan to anytime soon. It's what's best for me. I know it's really, really, really hard for a lot of people, either because you live with your family or you're financially dependent, or you just can't think of your life without your parents. And I totally understand how difficult it might be. But just for me and what I need, having someone in my life who refusing to acknowledge that Jess exists I just wasn't gonna allow that in my life. I started realizing that I was letting my parents treat me worse than I would let anyone treat me. I would never allow anyone in my life to talk to me, lash out at me in these ways, ignore my partner, ignore that Jess exists. So why would I do that just because they're family? So I have been healing and taking time, and I'm very open if something changes, if my parents come to terms with the fact that they have a lesbian daughter and are willing to embrace me in that way and change and apologize for the things that they have said and that they have done, and embrace and accept Jess as the most important person in my life. But until those things happen, I can't keep putting my heart out there and letting it get, what am I trying to say? Stabbed? Punched? I don't know. Thank you for watching. I hope that this is helpful to somebody. If you're watching this and you're questioning things, I assume if you click on a video talking about a coming out story, it's either because you know me or because you are questioning. It's okay. Don't freak out. You're totally normal. Everything is fine. If a label is really helpful and feels comforting and true, use a label. But if that does not feel comfortable or true for you right now, then don't worry about it. You don't have to have everything figured out about yourself right now. Just be open, be kind to yourself. Please be kind to yourself. And just know that there is a community of queer people like me that are so willing to be there for you and talk with you through this and are just welcoming you. Thank you so much for watching this.